Every single one of us has a lot that we can improve in our game. No matter your rank, I know that you struggle with a lot of the same things your fellow members of your rank do. What's up guys, my name is Valued and today we're going to be diving into a couple of tips for every rank. No matter where you are, I promise there's going to be a lot of valuable info that will help you improve in today's video. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off at the beginning, we have our friends in Bronze. Look, there's nothing wrong with being in this rank, but if you find yourself here and you're genuinely playing the game, it means you just have a lot of game knowledge that you have to pick up. Keeping a learner's mentality and looking to absorb as much info about the game as you can is the biggest tip I can give if you find yourself in Bronze. While there is a ton to learn and improve on, put a focus on building up your fundamentals. Learn all the weapons and legends, understanding their strengths, and how players like to use them. You can do this by simply putting time into the game or watching videos just like this one to help you learn. No matter how you want to go about it, use your time wisely. If you're trying to improve and push to silver and beyond, the first step is having a firm understanding of the game. You don't have to focus on advanced movement or aim training all day every day. Bronze players should instead put the focus on the basics and really hone in on the weapons they're strong with, POIs they like to drop to, and other baseline knowledge that can bring some level of consistency to their games. Now, on that point, there's a lot to learn when you find yourself at this stage of the journey, so make sure to hone in on one core aspect of your game at a time. Instead of trying to focus on everything, play some games, watch some videos, and then decide which aspect of your game you want to start with. For example, if you're having a hard time dropping off spawn, put a focus on finding a POI that's uncontested or only has one other squad and then winning it. Try out different spots and at different distances from the dropship. Practice making it there first and playing quickly off spawn. This is just a single example, but whatever you're struggling with, this channel has a plethora of info that you can constantly apply to your gameplay and see improvement. But the first step is accepting that you have improvements to make, and then focusing on the areas one at a time to improve your game. Moving up to silver, this is where you really need to start working on mechanics. If you made it this far, you might have a decent understanding of the game and enough reps to understand how to come out on top in your games. However, this is where your execution starts to matter a little bit, and that execution is based largely on your personal mechanics. While Bronze players might struggle with knowing what they should be doing in the game, many Silver players understand how to make plays, but lack the ability to actually make those plays happen. This is where you really need to hone in on becoming comfortable with your movement and aim. Just as we talked about with Bronze players learning new skills, it's no different here. Instead of trying to become a movement god overnight or learn to aim like a pro, focus on one aspect of your game. If you want to improve at movement, make sure you know how to slide jump properly and then try a couple of core movement mechanics beyond that in your games. If you want to improve your aim, then make sure you learn your gun's recoil pattern and get reps in using different weapons. And before we move on to gold, the ranks we're talking about right here in this area is where a coaching session can be a massive way to improve your game. On ProGuides.com, there's so many success stories of players from Bronze to Diamond getting a single coaching session and seeing monumental increases to their rank. If you're sick of being stuck in a low rank, then consider checking out the amazing coaches over at ProGuides.com in the description below. And for our last tip for Silver players, learn to control your nerves. This happens with a lot of Apex players, but players around the Silver area especially can struggle with being nervous when they're in a game. Whether you see a team pushing you or you're making it into the top 5, you've got to keep your cool. Staying calm and having a clear head throughout the entire game is a must if you want to perform and improve. You need to be dialed in to properly implement a lot of the practice you perform, and you'll be able to identify mistakes for improvement as well. Apex can be stressful, and nothing is more hype than getting a win. However, if you get antsy when moving into these high-pressure moments, you will miss out on opportunities to get that dub. Now, while you don't want to necessarily get cocky, being confident in your ability is the first step to properly showing the abilities that you've been honing. So make sure you're putting in the proper time to practice with a good mindset and stay confident that you can come out on top of every situation. Moving into gold, this is where you're really starting to feel comfortable in the game and beginning to have the skill to pull off plays. But with this power comes great responsibility, so it's important now to not get ahead of yourself. Tons of gold players start feeling good about the game and then think they can take on squads alone or strong-arm their team into following their calls. It's important to stay communicative in all your games and make sure you're playing with your squad. Even if they aren't all that great, your teammates are the most valuable resource in the game. They have health pools and potential damage output that is well above what you can do on your own. Even if they never shoot their gun, they help alleviate pressure from you and open up more opportunities for you to be impactful. And let's be honest, we all get some good teammates here and there, and you should do your best to get the most value out of them if possible. Secondly, as a gold player, you want to make sure to hone in on your strengths as a player. While you are getting comfortable with the game, you likely still have some aspects that you're not super great at. Rather than trying to do it all, focus on the things that you are really good at and abuse them to get an advantage. Are you a smart player with a solid understanding of the game? Then stay vocal in your lobbies, doing your best to help direct your squad while keeping the vibes high. Maybe you have really good movement but not the best shot. Then do your best to play legends and weapons that play into your strength. An example is playing a legend like Octane and looking to run shotties to allow you to be aggressive and get the most damage out of as little aim as possible. Obviously, this is a generalization. Hopefully you don't have great movement and bad aim, but we each have aspects of the game we're better than others at. As a gold player, recognizing this and playing to whatever you're good at and then covering for your weaknesses can help you get the most out of your gameplay while you shore up those other weaknesses. Oh boy, here we go, Platinum. This is where you're on the way to becoming a very good Apex player. This is where so many potentially great players get stopped up on their journey, and it largely comes from bad habits and views of the game. A big one of these habits is constantly taking fights. While you feel confident in your play, it's important to keep playing to your fundamentals at the forefront of your mind. Your teammates are even more important in this elo, and this is where you really can't do a whole lot on your own. Taking fights constantly keeps your team really disorganized, and if you're constantly forcing your team to respond to your aggression, they're going to be playing from uncomfortable situations every single time. While you may want to take every single fight, playing too fast for your squad is simply going to have you taking fights without enough help. The other big reason you want to stop constantly taking fights is because you should have a much bigger emphasis on your map position and the ring. Taking these fights all the time distracts you from the overall goal of the game, to win. While you want to be ending your games with that valuable KP, if you're trying to take every fight you can, you're going to be poorly positioned for the rest of the game, assuming that you make it out alive. Instead, look to only take a few fights a game and only when you've fully weighed out your priorities in the game. Those look something like this. Are you well positioned for the zone? Are you in danger of getting third party? Could you get into a position that would benefit you more for the rest of the game than taking this fight? These are some examples of the questions that I ask myself, and you should ask yourself as well. If you have thought processes like these, look to take fights that actually advance your game, and you're going to find yourself making big RP gains in no time. Alrighty guys, moving into Diamond, this is a symbol of becoming a pretty good player. The goal is obviously Masters and then Pred, but these lobbies start to get actually pretty competitive. This is where you have some actual competition in your lobbies, and this means you have to play much better. The biggest of these habits that you need to master is always being ready for third parties. Every single fight you get into has a high chance in this elo of getting rolled up on by another team. Understanding this and always quickly armor swapping and being prepared for another push is necessary in these lobbies. A lot of teams will hang out in certain areas of the map just waiting to hear a single shot so they can get involved and get their KP. This can sometimes be spotted out, but most of the time, you really just have to assume a third party is coming and prepare for them blind. So every time you finish a fight, armor swap and scout immediately for other teams. These quick actions can sometimes allow you to spot the enemies before they arrive, or at least put yourself in a spot to take them on when they do push you. And finally, I bet you didn't guess it, in these lobbies, as much as you need to prep for these third parties, you actually need to be pulling these third parties off yourself. As much as we all hate the third party meta, it has become a core part of Apex gameplay at the higher levels. If you hear a fight going on nearby, keep your eyes trained on the kill feed and watch for knocks. If you see more than one down, you can usually assume that the teams are fighting in close range. This second knock should be your go button, as this means the fight should be coming to an end very soon. If you have line of sight of the fight, make sure you're watching for any enemy movement and communicating this info to your team. Your goal is to pull up on the fight right as it's finishing or getting close to it. You want to get into the fight preferably as one squad is losing and before the winning squad has any time to heal. Keep in mind they're likely to armor swap, so you really want to catch them before they do this. But there's a high chance they nab one and get their shield back if you're not fast enough. This is a highly valuable skill that you need to understand how to do if you want to find success in these lobbies. Take the time to practice it in normals and you'll find yourself with a ton of extra KP without ever taking a 3v3 until endgame. Alrighty guys, and that's a wrap. No matter your rank, I know there's some super valuable stuff that I talked about here today that you can use for the rest of the season. Hopefully these tips being directed at certain ranks helps you to hone in on what you should be focusing on. Now, obviously guys, everything I said about the ranks is a generalization, but if you use even one of these tips, I know you will be improving fast. As always guys, it's been your boy Valued. Leave a like if you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.